For those that might not be reading chat, waiting for the thing to start, I'll kind of read what Justin just posted. Anyone that's in the webinar here that's from Illinois, he's hoping that you've signed up for the ServiceNow user group meeting that's going to be coming up at Rosemont. So if you have not done that, please go check that out. I'm sure Justin would appreciate. All right, so we're coming up on we're a little over 3 minutes. We'll give it just a few more seconds, but I'll kind of do my intro again as well. Again, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on your time zone. Thank you for joining today. We're going to go ahead and start here I'm showing 11:03 currently Eastern time, so we'll start at 11:04 with our Getting Started with Strategic Planning webinar. And we'll kind of get rolling on that. Give it just a few more seconds. All right. We definitely have some fantastic representation here. I am seeing just across the globe. So again, welcome everyone. And I am showing 11:04. So let's go ahead and get started because this is going to be pretty tight on our timing. So we will kind of get through here. So first, a safe harbor. Everything I'm going to be talking about today is already released. It's active as of Vancouver. However, there may be some forward-looking statements we're going to have in here based on some assumptions and beliefs we've got coming up on some of our future releases. And I'll point out where I'm talking about something that's future. But know that that can be changed. Know that things shift where we are in software development. So that does alter how that kind of works. So anything that is forward-looking, I'll kind of point that out. There will be very, very little. So join us for future webinars as well. So definitely take advantage of these types of things that we have. So today's session is a part of the Live on ServiceNow. It's a curated event series to connect you with ServiceNow experts and peers that can help you deploy your products and achieve that value faster. So we hope you join us again on another webinar or any of the 360 exchanges. You can see that schedule by either scanning this QR code, or you can use the link that's going to be in chat that's right there. So feel free to use either of those to kind of really connect to these other webinars, to feel free to join in and see what you can learn through them. Great, great material. Little housekeeping. I am trying to save time at the end for Q&A. While that's going on, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen along the way. Let's go ahead and get those questions submitted for a couple of reasons. Number one, I am a normal talker. I will tell you that right now. And this deck is pretty long. I'm going to move through some slides pretty quickly and try to get to where we've got 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the time to answer questions. However, if things fail, if things fall apart there and we don't get to those questions, we will be gathering those and I will answer those through a community post. But I am going to try to get you some time at the end so that we can handle that. The presentation is also being recorded, and we're going to share that on ServiceNow Community. So if you wanted to go back and kind of look through it again, see, did you miss anything? Is there extra stuff you wanted to focus on? It gives you that opportunity to really take advantage of that. And then after the event, you're going to be prompted to fill out a short survey. We will thank you for your feedback on that. I always appreciate, hearing what I could do better, how I could make this more informational to you, more beneficial to clients, to partners, to whomever. So please feel free to fill out that survey for us. All right, agenda. I'm going to do an introduction basically of myself. We're going to talk about strategic planning, which was formerly known as Alignment Planner Workspace. Then we're going to break into some of the features that really give the value to Strategic Planning Workspace, such as the goal framework and goal setting. We'll talk about the lenses. We're going to talk about the backlog planning and prioritization. We're going to touch on the capacity planning and resource assignments. This is something that's a new flavor. If you haven't been playing in strategic planning yet, this is going to be new fertile ground for you that you're going to see. And then once we get through all that, my intention is to pop into the instance, give you a little demo of each of those, see it outside of a slide per se. And then I don't have it in a bullet point, but we're going to see if we can do all of that and still give you about 5 or 10 minutes for Q&A if there's something that we can answer. All right. So introductions, just a little bit about myself. My name is Tony Nelson. I'm the portfolio manager for strategic portfolio management here at ServiceNow. While I'm rather new to ServiceNow, I've actually been involved with the ecosystem since 2009. Now, for those who are on the call, we have a mix here, I'm sure, of clients, of customers, of partners. I've been all three. So beginning as a client, I worked on the client side as an application and platform owner, as well as a system administrator from 2009 to 2015. In 2015, I made the leap over to the consulting world and worked with a number of partners, including Accenture, who was our co-host for today, but Patty could not make it. So unfortunately, you're stuck with me. And then in 2023, I made the move to ServiceNow themselves into my current role. So I've kind of moved across the various sections of the ecosystem to gain the knowledge, experience, and information that I've picked up along the way. When I first moved into consulting back in 2015, the very first project I went out on, and it became my main focus, really became SPM. Back then it was PPM, then became ITBM. IT business management now is strategic portfolio management. So I've kind of followed along that journey that ServiceNow has had us on. Now, in there, what we always had to deal with was idea, demand, project. Then you started having resource, and all these things started to grow within the area. Well, what they've broken into over the last couple of years, last few releases of ServiceNow, is the strategic planning workspace area. So as we've been growing in the next experience, that's the one that's getting the attention on the SPM side. So this strategic planning workspace, it really gives you that end-to-end integrated planning experience, someplace where you can go in and start to align your strategy to execution. And it gives you a spot where your business leaders can start to come in and really define and track goals across the organization. Now, we've got some bullet points here. We'll kind of walk through each of those. One of the things that I love about this is that first bullet point right off the bat. Wherever I went, whenever we did an ITBM or SPM implementation, we always got where can I prioritize this? Where can we take our list of work and say, this is 1, this is 100, and then these are the ones in between? Well, this workspace gives you that ability, gives you that spot to gather, review, prioritize that work, and then align it to the strategies of the organization. It gives you a spot to track status and progress of initiatives on that visual roadmap that's very interactive for you. No matter which methodology you're using, whether it's hybrid, whether it's agile, whether it's waterfall, it's all supported in here. It's no real difference here because it's going against the planning items. It allows planners to visualize and manage and share their portfolio plans. You're going to see that when we get into the lenses and how you can build those for yourself and share those out to individuals. Some of the new stuff within ServiceNow's Strategic Planning Workspace is it's going to allow you to start to view resource capacity so you can understand how the resource assignments are going to fit in with the work that you got involved there and how all that rolls up to your goal. So you kind of start to see all of these little layers that are coming together as part of SPW or Strategic Portfolio Workspace. And then lastly, how to create and edit those resource assignments for your planning items. So we'll really get in here and understand how these can impact you. Now, the reason I picked this is a lot of you guys on this call are probably using SPM today, some part of it, or you're contemplating using some part of it. And as I've mentioned, up to this point, a lot of individuals are using innovation, as you see up here. They might be using demand or project or these things that are already in here. And you guys are looking at what's the next thing that we can start to leverage? What can we start to take advantage of? And I'm going to focus you back on this front end. And it's really the strategy and planning, strategic roadmap. Those pieces are where SPW really is going to come into play. So as we talk today, if you're really looking at that next piece, I challenge you to really look hard at SPW as being that next piece for you, that nice puzzle that's going to pull all of these other pieces of SPM together. Hopefully that makes sense there. So today, the strategic planning management, you're going to get in here, you're going to start to do roadmap strategy to maximize those outcomes. You're going to start to look at goals and targets, start to look at strategic road mapping, start to look at strategic architecture. And it's all in this funnel of SPM, strategic portfolio management. It's really where you get your strategy, your alignment, and your delivery and get them all working in consort is really what we're trying to do there. Now, with that, you can start to do with that alignment some of this what-if investment planning. Start to centralize that demand and ideation so that you can align those to your implementation strategy. And in doing that, it's going to help drive better delivery because now you don't have these work coming in from 10 different areas. For those that have been in the PPM space, you well know that your ideas could come in from a chat, could come in from an email, could come in from you walk away and there's a note on your monitor when you get back, a phone call, all these different areas. So the idea of SPM is really to centralize all of that. But when you've been doing that over the last few years with idea and demand and project and resource and all of this, there's been no central view to really see all of that. And that's where SPW, Strategic Planning Workspace, really comes into play. And then what I want you to ask yourself as we move through here is how can you connect your business strategy and prioritize critical work to deliver fastest business value? And that's what we're going to show you today. That's where this comes into play. With SPW, there's three big drivers. One is being visibility. As I pointed out before, this is going to be that one-stop shop for your PMO, for your project managers, for some of your business leaders to be able to come in and see and align all of the work that's out there to optimize the business outcomes and help deliver more value. We don't want to just do how much can we do? It's about the value. So that's what we want to focus on. Two is the prioritized work. Like I said, this is one of my favorite pieces to this, and you're going to see that when we go in, is the fact that I can go in and plan, prioritize, and then track that work in the context of business objectives through those strategies. And not only that, be able to share those views, share those lenses to give everyone visibility. And then lastly is the alignment to make the right top-down investments to do the right work at the right time in order to respond to the change with data-driven decisions, not just going, that feels right, let's do this. Let's give the data, let's give the information behind it to really make those educated moves. Now, some of our objectives for roadmap planning, and when we get into SPW, is to deliver those strong outcomes. We want to be able to plan and track those roadmaps. With Strategic Planning Workspace and Portfolio Planning Workspace, and you're going to hear those two terms quite a bit today. And I will draw a distinction, and you're going to see it here coming up, what that difference is. It's really a licensing difference. It's really, they're the same functionality. Strategic Planning Workspace is for the SPM Pro license. Portfolio Planning Workspace is for the SPM Standard license. And that's on a slide in here, so you'll see it. The real difference in those two is really the amount of lenses you have access to. So when we get in, I'll show that where that breaks out and which each gets. This is going to give teams a clear plan and simplify and improve the project management by breaking down those roadmaps into separate projects. Also, you'll see when we get in here is those planning items include other things outside of projects. You could have epics, you could have demands, you could have projects. With SPM Pro, you can add even more custom tables into there if you're tracking other types of items through there. It's going to allow you to align initiatives to business goals and allow you to prioritize that work, visualize it, and then tailor that roadmap to that. And then, as we've said a number of times in here again, share those plans with different audiences. And then last, like I said previously on the last slide, is make those informed decisions. Help deliver those insights to help guide your leadership. The organization's always looking for that type of data. So that's what we're trying to do with these. Now, again, this is kind of the breakdown of SPM as a whole. We are focusing on strategic planning. That's been the big push within this. We feel innovation management, demand management, project management in a pretty good spot. But you get this disparate use, of a different feel as you go into each of those. Idea feels a little different than project, feels a little different than demand, where what we're trying to do here is centralize this with this next experience and give you this workspace environment to really drive that continuity across the platform. And on top of that, adding this new functionality that really makes strategic planning the juice worth the squeeze now. I've had one implementation of this when I was back on the partner side. And at that point, it was really just the road mapping, that a little bit of the goals. And that was really all you were getting out of strategic planning. Now with road mapping, with prioritization, with capacity planning, with assessments, all of these things, resource assignments, it really starts to work for you and makes it of value. And is the reason I said definitely contemplate that as your next item. I did promise you a breakdown between the two, SPM Pro license versus the SPM standard license. So as you see here with the SPM Pro license, you're going to get the whole list of lenses. So you're going to get the portfolio plan, you're going to get the product, the project portfolio, the strategic investments, the value stream, the goals. You're going to get all of those. You get the ability to do 5 additional out-of-the-box custom planning item tables. So if you wanted to track other things within here that you guys utilize, you would have the availability to pull those in. You get the prioritization, and you're going to get new views, which are going to make that more value. I think you're going to like that when we get in there. It used to be just a list. Now we've got the ability to see that hierarchically and to see it in a Kanban view. So you've got more options. New in Vancouver, we've got the capacity planning. New in Vancouver, we've got the resource assignment. Now you notice quite a bit of that comes over. So you're still going to see the hierarchy view. You're still going to see the capacity planning. You're still going to see the resource assignment. You only get 2 lenses. We'll talk about those as we get in there. And that's really the difference between the two. Now, you might be asking, why? What would be the value? Who's going to be the consumer of this? So when we break down and you really start to look at this, when we talk about portfolio planning, so standard license, you'll notice it mentions up top here some of your key characters that might be interested in that. Could be your portfolio manager, could be your business or department head or director or PMO would be your interested. Now, the reason being that those are the individuals listed boils back to those lenses, because the 2 lenses you get with portfolio planning are the portfolio lens, and you're going to get the organization lens. So that's why you basically see it as an organization here. However, when you switch to, if you have the SPM Pro license, notice over here that with our Pro, you have more personas in there. So you've got your PMR, you've got your strategy leader or program manager, you've got your value stream manager. If you're doing Agile, you've got your Agile release train manager in there. You've got your product line. You've got your VP. You've got product manager, all these other individuals. So it gives you a lot more personas because of the additional lenses you get access to. Now, when we look at the 2 on the bottom here, portfolio planning is best suited for that traditional waterfall type work. The project portfolio management lens is going to be included there. It's out of the box functionality. When you get into the strategic planning workspace, so the Pro license, that's really all of them. So it says Agile or hybrid, but waterfall works there too. You get the strategic portfolio planning with goals. You get more out-of-the-box lenses and increased flexibility and configuration. So you're getting those, as we mentioned, those 5 out-of-the-box custom planning items you could also do. So you're adding to that functionality. So let's start talking about some of these functions. We've talked about what SPM is. Now let's say if I was going into it, what are we doing? So first is the goal setting. This is one where not a lot of organizations have jumped into yet, but it's a nice little area. So with goal setting in strategic planning, it's going to allow you to create goals, set targets for them, and start to evaluate that process on those goals and those targets. That way, when you look at your organizational plans, you understand how our work is playing into those plans and driving those business outcomes. So the key goal management components here are the goals, which are the objectives that you want to reach based on your strategic plans. Now, those can be at different levels. They could be enterprise goals. They could be department goals. They could be business unit goals. You can break those down at whatever level makes the most sense for your organization, and they might be embedded. You might have, like when I was on the customer side, our CEO would come out, and here would be our 5 pillars for the year. Then each department under them had to come up with their goals that supported those enterprise goals. And then each group within that department would then have to come up with their goals that supported the department goals. So you could embed those in that sort of way if you needed to. So it's a nice way to kind of layer things if that's how your organization functions. And then next are your targets. And those are the targets for those goals to track and measure the progress of the goals. Those could be something that is automated. It's done through some scripts or whatever the case, where it's evaluating data that's available in the system, or it's something that's subjective that the owner of the goal or owner of the target is going in and updating at a specific interval to make sure that you're gathering the information. So it could be either or. These we'll kind of breeze through quickly because, again, we'll jump in and we'll see these as well. When you go into Strategic Planning Workspace, one of the things you'll see when you go into some of your portfolio plans or your lenses is one of your first screens is going to lay out your dashboard for your goals. So if there's any goals associated to that, you will see those. If you've got targets that have progress, those will be present. So all of that will be available for us right within here. Much like anywhere else you go in ServiceNow, there is the availability to click in to see data, as well as you'll notice there's tabs up top in this. It's a little small, but we've got tabs here where we've got the dashboard. We also have the list or the hierarchy of these goals. So we can go in and really start to look at this data and know what we're dealing with. This is kind of showing you the list view. And as you'll notice, I can expand those. So if there are goals within goals or targets within goals, I would be able to expand that and see that, as well as seeing the roll-up progress. So if these are an enterprise goal with a department goal, with a group goal, or whatever the case is, or a business unit goal, you'll see that roll-up as they move through there. So it gives you great data, great information that you can start to make those informed decisions we talked about. What's nice about what we're doing with Strategic Portfolio Workspace is the fact that now from the workspace, I can actually do my goal framework work. Notice here that I can click on the 3 dots in the front of those rows, and it gives me the option to create a sub-goal, to set a target. If I want to align work, I've created a new goal, and I know I've got X number of projects out there that align to this particular goal, I can align that work right here as well. So it gives me a lot of functionality from the workspace. I don't have to come out of here and go somewhere else to create those. I can do it all within my workspace, making life a little bit easier for me as a PMO, as a goal owner, for whatever role I have in the organization. Not only that, I can also open these up. Now, you were seeing a list view here before. Notice when I click those, I can actually get the information pane, the goal details, over there on that right side of the screen. So if I needed to edit fields, update the dates, add notes, whatever the case is. Again, I can do all that work straight from the workspace. I don't have to go anywhere else. It's all right here. I had mentioned aligning it. Notice when I bring up the details over there, one of the tabs on that is edit the work items. This gives me the item. When I go into that, I can then tell it, hey, here are the projects, here are the demands, here are whatever the records are that are associated to this particular goal. And I can start to pull that in so that it shows up appropriately within all of my dashboards so that my data is correct, that I have that. Now, the other thing I'll point out on that is we're getting a flyout, so to speak, with the details here. I can drop down to the bottom and hit the full details, which is going to open up that full record for me as well. So again, Workspace has become a much easier place to kind of work within. Now, when you see the full details, you'll notice here, I've got the various tabs. Just if you use Workspace and elsewhere, such as Incident, you'll notice very similar. I've got my Details tab, my quantitative targets, my qualitative targets, my sub-goals, my planning items are associated. Notice I've got the option to add there. All of my functionality right here. Same for targets. Targets are going to give you some options when you set that. These can be measures of percents, of numbers, of dollars, of days. You can do a base value, a target value, then the actual value, and really start to add comments, attach documents, especially if it's something where you're having to fill out, it can't go calculate it. It would allow you to, maybe you want to attach the details of how you reached that information. You can do that. So really good, solid data for you. So that's kind of goals at a very high level. Now, the strategic planning features, I teased this earlier. This to me is one of my favorite sections. This is what I really like because I've been asked for it so often. And it's that ability to prioritize all those work, to align those goals, to roadmap it and track that progress. I mean, that's the goal. That's the purpose of project management as a whole. So what we're doing is really looking at allowing you to do that here. Now, this goes to the heart of what I was mentioning before. These are your out-of-box lenses. Now, you'll notice there's 6 total here. 4 of them are for Pro only. You'll notice the little green asterisks up here. Those are Pro only. So we've got project and portfolio. We've got organizational lens. So those allow you to break down your planning items, your work items, by portfolio in this case, or by company, business unit, or department. That's your standard license. For those with the Pro, you get these 2, and then you get these 4. So you can do strategic investment lenses. So I can do company, strategic priority, initiative, strategic program. I can do a product lens, which allows me to do by company and product model. Value streams, which allows me to do value stream and product model. Or goals, I can do it specifically by the goals. So fantastic information. And again, your planning items, that's going to be demand, that's going to be project, it's going to be epics. And if you have Pro, you can do those custom planning items. So those lenses, if you have the Pro license and you go in to create a new lens, a new planning item, a planning roadmap, this is what I'm presented with. And it allows me to choose the one I want. And then I would just click next. You'll see that when we get in there. If, however, I have the standard license, if I do the same steps, this is what I see. So again, same thing. I choose the lens I want, whether it's organization or portfolio, and I hit next, and it'll guide you through the creation of your lens, of your roadmap there. So it gives you a really nice, streamlined way of going through there. Once you've got your plan created, you've gone through all those steps. This is that prioritization and planning we talked about. So once I've got all of my work items in there, and you'll notice in this case, you're mainly seeing demands and projects. Well, within here, I've got a couple of things I want to point out. First is, it's hidden here. On this first area, you're going to have your ranking. So I can then start to move this stuff up or down and start to dictate as a PMO. Here's our number one priority. Here's our number 100 priority. And here's how all the ones in between break out. And I can just drag and drop those up and down the list to make them what I want. The second thing that you can do within here is this planning state. So this is unique to Strategic Portfolio Workspace, is I'm able to double click that and I can say that, hey, this is either new, in which case it does not show up on my roadmap. I can say it's prioritized, it's in review, or it's going to be done or canceled or any of that. And it helps us understand as an organization where the planning items are, which ones are actually being done. And then something that's new, in my example here, I didn't choose any and I should have. You'll notice our third column here, technically fourth if you count the first one here. We now have Moscow in there. So you can start to notate on these which items are must-haves, could have, should have, won't have. You can start to set that within there so that you've got that data from the jump, which makes it really, really nice. Now, in addition to that list view we were just looking at, you can also go to the hierarchy view, where you can start to see things kind of laid out. What I'm pointing out in the screenshot here is I can also change my lens while I'm in here. So if I've got other lenses, this was set up for strategic investment. If I wanted to swap this to value stream, I'd hit the little down arrow and I can swap my view. So it changes how I'm looking at it, changes how the data is sliced and diced. Now, something that's new, I pointed out as part of Vancouver, is the Kanban view. So you can now view this data in a Kanban view, which will give you that same drag and drop functionality you've seen elsewhere. You dictate through the little configuration there what your columns are, what your swim lanes are, so that you can move stuff around there appropriately. Makes it really nice when you're in a PMO meeting and you're wanting to discuss, hey, here's what the work we want to do. Here's what we've got. Your custom planning items, I won't go too deep on this, but this allows you to take these planning items and attach them to out-of-box tables if there are certain other types of work you're wanting to track. Just grabbing something off the top of my head. Maybe you wanted to configure one of these to track your defects, your enhancements, things along those tracks. It gives you a spot where you can now include those in that SPW so you can see them. Backlog planning kind of goes along the lines of what I was just kind of talking about. It's kind of this one and the same. You were seeing how the lenses portrayed everything before, and I kind of already explained all this on that screenshot, but that was what I really had to talk here, was one, the rank. Here you do see the rank, and you can see on the screen I've got 1 through 16. Again, it's a simple drag and drop. You grab the little marker here on the front, move that around, boom, you're good. This one, I do have some Moscow in here. So you'll notice there's some must have, some won't have. There's a could have, a should have. And you'll notice it color codes it. So it draws your eyes there. So it makes it really nice when you're kind of working through there. Again, we don't want you having to go 10 different places to do your work. Notice within here, if we needed to adjust, say, dates, notice on the bottom of that screenshot, you can double click and change those approved dates. Maybe things are shifting and you needed to move those. You can do that right from within this window. Now, from here, what we can do is we can start getting into some of the other things. So here you've got your prioritization. You can start to filter this. You can see we kind of collapsed it where we kind of grouped it. I can drag any of those columns up and do this grouped by. So again, I can slice and dice the data right within the workspace so I can work the way I need to work. The prioritization, like I said, that becomes important because until you set this to in review and prioritized, I believe, they don't show up on your roadmap. You'll notice our next tab here, the roadmap. That's where you start to see that data. And it allows you to really get in and understand that. Now, your states, you've got new, prioritized, in review, canceled, and done. So you'll notice the new. From there, that's an item that's created from one of the possible sources. It could be done within the workspace, could have been done through Innovation Portal, through demand, whatever the case is. Those planning items do not show up on the roadmap yet. prioritized. Once it's been set to that, it's been prioritized to be worked on, that's when it shows on the roadmap. And then notice you're in review, you're canceled, and the done all state the planning item does not show in the roadmap yet. So we want to make sure that any work that we want to do as an organization, we are doing everything in our power to get it prioritized so that we can deal with it on our roadmap. That becomes very important. The next big new thing within Vancouver is our capacity planning. So this is the area that I'm going to use the safe harbor statement from the beginning on. What this is going to do is the capacity planning and resource assignment really leverages self-teaching and the next-gen UI to be consistent across the platform to help increase that productivity. Make it more common. For those that are using workspaces elsewhere, we want you to be able to do it here. It's going to unify that data within here to be compatible with all work planning and delivery approaches. And it's going to enable the managers and planners to have real-time insights into the latest capacity landscape. So what you see is something like this. So when I go into my HR initiatives for 2024, and I don't need to see the prioritization or the roadmap tab anymore, I can click that capacity planning, and I can see all of my resource assignments based on the time frame involved with that particular set of work. And at a glance, I can see where I'm in good shape with my resources, and then in the red, I can see where I'm in bad shape with my resources, and maybe we need to be talking. So this heat map really allows me to help understand where we are from a capacity planning standpoint. And you'll be able to understand them. When can we add more work? When do we need to shift some work or maybe reprioritize some things? Because obviously with some of this red, we can't do all this work unless we add more resources. Otherwise, we need to relook at what we're doing as far as a roadmap plan. And then from that, what you're able to do is also from a portfolio area is I can start to see the various groups. So when I'm looking at HR Initiatives 2024, I can go in and I can choose the groups that are involved with that so that they show up on my plan. So it makes it really interesting. And then you'll notice that I can then go into the various items. And from those items, I can see the resource assignment specifically to that particular work item. So I'm not seeing the whole portfolio then. Now I'm seeing just that particular work item. In this case, the Global Benefits Management project. So it just allows you to slice and dice really nicely there. It does allow you to manage capacity. So if I'm not sure about the data as being correct, maybe I want to go in and look up a particular team, I can tell it to regenerate my capacity. So it'll start to go out and look at all the work and figure out what I've got. And notice this really breaks it down by 3 areas. You'll notice group, role, and skill. So you can get as finite as you want here on how you break up your resource assignments. Now, a couple things I want to point out here is this is not just a new look. Resource assignments is playing in other areas as well. So in addition to what you see in SPW, you can access it within your project workspace, the next experience workspace. So you can see it in both areas, which gives you a really nice area to dig in, and it's not just the one area. Now, this was the slide I was trying to get to with this one. Resource management, old versus new. The safe harbor piece. For right now, you got the classic resource management. That's going to use the resource plan table. That's usually made at a high level, and some organizations do a better job at it than others, but oftentimes we find it's not always kept up to date throughout the project. We find it laxes sometimes. The next experience resource assignment uses a whole new table. This is now using the resource assignment table. Now, what's nice about this is one of the struggles I always have with implementation on resource plans is if you make them at various levels of the WBS, You always have to dig into those levels to see them. They don't bubble up, I guess is a great way to say it. With resource assignments, I can make these resource assignments at any WBS and see it as a whole when I look at the resource assignments for that particular work item, whether it be a demand, whether it be a project, whether it be an epic, whatever the case is. Assignment can be a group, a role, or an individual. It can be a skill. They can be fine-tuned throughout the project. You can make those adjustments as you see kind of flowing through there where it's needed. This is going to be the basis for attribute-based financial planning and capacity planning. And it's using the Next Experience Project Workspace as well as the Strategic Planning Workspace, and Safe Harbor will be used on the upcoming Resource Management Workspace. So I wanted to point that out. That's where that's the Safe Harbor one I wanted to get to, is while this is different, you're moving from the resource plan to the resource assignment table, that once in the future, whether that, I believe it's going to be, we're hoping for Washington, you'll have that resource management workspace to be able to work with as well. Now, some key considerations. You're saying, Tony, you're laying some big news on me here that, hey, we got two different tables, old versus new. So if you are heavily relying on allocation workbench for resource manager to staff to work, if you have key processes that are reliant on resource plan data, requires further validation, or has not activated the Next Experience yet, for now, stick with the classic resource management and resource plans. That's going to be the best bet for you. Now, if none of that up top is true, and you've given your project managers the autonomy to make resourcing actions so that they can go in and they can assign a user, they can make the decision to shift stuff around, to prioritize things over the other, that does not have to go to a resource manager, the resource assignment makes sense. If you desire to align resources to any WBS level, whether that's a project, a phase, a milestone, a task, resource assignment. If you want to generate attribute-based labor cost plans from resource assignments, desire to do attribute-based capacity planning, and then resource assignments are made on demands. Next, the Next Experience with resource assignments, the way to go. Later down the line, okay, I want to preface this, later down the line, the classic resource management will be deprecated. It won't be pulled out because some people will want to continue to use it. And if you're okay using it without getting, the updates later, great, you're fine. It's there, it's working for you, you're good. But we are transitioning long-term to resource assignments. So that's that safe harbor area. We're not going to take it away. You'll still have it. It still works. Just 2 years from now, you're probably not going to be getting updates for it, for classic resource management. So that's kind of the big differences in the two. So, when you're looking at what used to happen for capacity planning and resource reports and all that, it was pulling from the resource plans. Now this new data, this new capacity planning that's happening within SPW is happening via the resource assignment table. Hopefully that makes sense. You're able from these items, if you go into specific work items, you can do quick resource assignments right from the tray. So you'll notice in this example, I'm able to build this out on the fly within the workspace. Again, staying within, I'm not having to go back to a record somewhere. I'm not having to come out of this and go into that. I can do it right here. Again, work smarter, not harder. As I mentioned before, the ability to assign these at any WBS level, critical in my opinion. Love that it's here and that you have that access to do that. Not only that, as I go through here, I can see in the heat map where that utilization is. And notice you've got a little chart here, a little legend. So under 50% utilization, it's a light green. 51 to 99, it's a medium green. 100% is a dark green. Then you've got a light pink and a dark pink for your overutilized and very overutilized. So again, as a person running this, if I'm PMO, whatever the case is, I can instantly see that and start to make the adjustments, which makes it really nice to have. As you'll notice, I can click into them. I can, view what other work they've got it on. Maybe it's a prioritization issue. Maybe maybe that other thing gets shelved. This has gotten top priority because this is the CIO's project and we got to get it done. So again, you get that visibility, which I'm a big fan of visibility. Anybody that's on this call that knows me knows I'm all about the visibility. And then not only that, you can drag and drop within here. So I should say just drag, I won't say drop. Notice up top, you can drag that task. So you're changing your WBS. Well, when you change that, it's automatically adjusting your resources at the bottom. So as you shift it, that's going to shift your resources so that everything is kept up to date. And I've got the most current information. And anybody else who's using resource assignments, again, has the main information. Now, one of the other things that happens is the carryover resource assignments. Just as you're already accustomed to, if you create these at the demand level and you convert said demand to a project, these do flow over from resource assignments on the demand to resource assignments on the project. So everything moves within there so that you have the appropriate data at the appropriate record when needed. Okay. So we ran through that. So I'm going to try to pop in, show you a couple of things, and then do some questions. I haven't seen a lot come up except for the question on capacity planning. And hopefully what I was saying there made a little bit of sense. So we'll kind of jump in and look at these items really quick.
Hey, Tony, there are about 10 questions in the Q&A. I'm not sure if you can see them, but
I
and
can
then you
scroll
can
up
get
and
to it
find it.
after you finish the demo.
Gotcha. Perfect. All right. So our first one here. I am logged in as Megan Burt. Now, Megan is the portfolio manager. She also has the project manager role, and I've also given her the goal role so that we'd be able to kind of not have to swap around a lot. So when she comes in here, she's able to see a couple of things. Right off the bat, she sees any plans that she has created or that have been shared with her. Now, she has the ability to create new ones. Now, in this particular instance, this has the pro license. So if I were to hit new, I'm going to get the list of lenses that I talked about before. So now I could quickly make an organizational one, a product one, a portfolio, a strategic investments, a value stream, or one for goals, any of those that make sense for me. And then I could go through all the steps to choose the appropriate information. So we'll just do portfolio for giggles here. And I tell it I want to do portfolio, and I would choose the appropriate portfolio. So maybe it's product development, which I think there's already one of those in here, but we'll do it anyway. And then I can help decide what shows up here. So I can say, hey, everything that's part of portfolio is product development. You can add more criteria. If you only want to see if maybe things within there that are part of a certain program, you can do an and or an or and continue to add criteria there that make sense. Give it a name. We'll call this, I'm going to call this 2 because I think there's one in here and I don't want it to bark at me. And I'm going to tell it to create. And when it does that, it's going to go get the data and it's going to present us with our area here. So this one doesn't have a lot, so we'll go pick another one when we're done here. But if there are any goals associated with this, which there are not, it would show here and I'd be able to add goals or whatever the case is. But let's go grab one here. Let's grab that initiatives you saw in the demo. So I will apologize. This is demo data. So right now I don't have a lot in the way of targets, so I'm not getting any data from my total progress. But you do see there are 5 goals associated with these HR initiatives. So I'm able to see, currently they're all green. So there is a status on there. If those were yellow or red, they would show up and it would break it down appropriately. Again, demo data, if I had targets, that would all start to appear down here. But I could also go in and look at the list. Here are the items that are involved in that. And if there were targets associated, I have the ability to expand that out and see the roll-up data. I could see the hierarchy if there was such, which to show you that, let me do this one. This one should have some hierarchy. Yeah, so we got a little bit of hierarchy here. So this is just a goal and a target. If there was a sub goal, it would just open up down under here and then to target, whatever the case is. I would have that visibility within there and would be able to see that. So you can see here, we've got a sub goal and I've got a target there. So it gives me good visibility into that. Now that's the goals section. Now, if I wanted to go into the planning section, here's that prioritization we talked about. So now I can see my goal or my prioritization of this particular plan. There's 1 through 131. I'm going to go back to the top. Number 5 has been reprioritized. That's now number 1. So I'm going to take the attendance management system. I'm just going to drag it, drop it. Now that's our number 1. So that's already been moved. Now, if I'm also saying, hey, not only that, we're saying that's a must have, I can go ahead and mark that as such. And it gives me all that availability to make those decisions in here as a PMO. So we can now track this and understand what's going on. I mentioned dates. I can change that right here. I can go in, I can view the roadmap. I can see how this plays out. Now, this particular one, since it's the corporation, is cutting across multiple departments. So I can see here's finance, here's HR, here's IT, here's legal. I can see all of that data at this particular view. My capacity planning. This one doesn't have any set up, but HR does. Let me go take a look. HR initiatives. So if I go to capacity planning, it would then show me, here's my capacity. And I'm able to zoom in. I'm able to kind of dig in a little bit if I want to know, in this case, it's various roles that I'm having problems with here. So this one, my architect's fine. My data scientist is fine and designer. My problem is my data analyst. What can I do with that? I can start to go in and start to understand, how do we deal with this? How do we handle it? If I want to take a particular planning item and zoom in on that, I can actually click the bar and I'm seeing now just that particular item and the people involved with it. So the payroll team's on it. And within there, the DevOps engineer, the product manager, the quality analyst, so forth, so on. And I can start to understand how those break out. So again, all within SPW. There's your QR code. Make sure you go out there, view the other possible ones. Keep an eye on that one for more SPW workshops, because we definitely want to get more data out here, because I think it's a really good area to be. And like I said, I think it's the next big implementation for SPM for most organizations. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your questions. I hope you guys got a lot out of this and look forward to speaking with you in the future. You guys have a great day.